So New York has one of the lowest divorce rates in the country, followed by Washington, D.C. and New Jersey.
Divorce, it ain't cheap. Couples spend upwards of $7,000 to call it quits. Many couples now opting for what's called conscious recoupling. It's a trend to save their marriages. This morning we are joined by Sara Davison, best known as the divorce coach, with tips on conscious recoupling and what it actually takes to make marriages last. So good morning to you. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
So before we get to what exactly that term means, let's talk about some of the numbers, right? Is it true that half of all marriages end in divorce?
Yeah, first marriages, actually.
Okay.
First marriages.
Second marriages, it jumps up to 60% end in divorce, and third marriages, it jumps up to 73%.
Wow.
Though I would add that there are people that haven't come to me for coaching, so that's...
Yeah.
Third time's the charm, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So why do you think it is that New York has one of the lowest rates for divorce?
Well, it's obviously a very expensive place to live. So I think also there's a real aspiration to get a mortgage first before you get married. So I think people are waiting to get married a lot later. And then getting divorced is so expensive as well. So not only the legal costs can be eye-watering, but also if you're having to separate into two households from one, it's expensive enough to run one house. But then when you've got if you've got children, you need rooms with extra bedrooms, it gets really, really expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, so
now
it's
you're
really
only-
like a financial decision. more than
Yeah,
it's
a lot of
anything.
people do stay together because of money.
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
because you're going from two incomes to one. If you have kids, you got the kids, like you said.
Yeah.
But a couple of years ago, there was this big trend. It was called conscious uncoupling.
Yes.
And now you're talking about conscious recoupling.
Yes, yeah. Well, conscious uncoupling was brought to us by, I think Gwyneth Paltrow
Yes.
highlighted it.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic, isn't it? If you can get divorced and do it amicably, that's what we want. I coined the term aggressively severing because that's definitely what I did when I went through my divorce, and I learned a lot of lessons from that. But I think most people that I see are going through difficult divorces. But I think because of the cost of living crisis, which is global, I mean, obviously from my accent, you can tell I'm not from here, so
Yes.
I'm in London, and we're having the same problems. You know, everything that was $1 here, like the $1 pizza slice you guys had
Yes.
now,
Yes.
I mean, it's no longer $1, right? Same in the UK, so and worldwide. So what we're finding is that people can't afford to get divorced, but it's never too late to save your relationship, and you can work on it to improve it. And I think a lot of people are saying, I don't want to carry on as I am, so what can I do to revitalise it and get the spark back?
Yeah, so what does recoupling actually look like?
So it's when you make that conscious decision that you're going to do things differently, because relationships take work, but a lot of people when they get married go, right, I'm married, I've got my partner,
Yep.
I don't need to invest in us as a relationship anymore. So recoupling really takes you back to basics, at really getting to understand each other, especially if you've been together for quite a long time, because you will have changed. 10 years is a big difference, right, in what you want, what you're doing. So taking the time to rediscover your partner and reconnect in ways that maybe you haven't done for quite a long time.
And a lot of times kids take away from that relationship and you forget about your partner.
Absolutely, yeah, our focus shifts, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about the kids and less about being mum or being yourself or being dad or whatever. It's about, everything else that's going on. So, yeah.
So how is the conscious recoupling different than, say, going to marriage counseling?
Well, you can do it with a therapist or a coach like me. You can definitely work on it with it, but you can also do it together. And I think that's where it has to start. I think, first of all, we need to look at not letting those problems fester. And if you've been in a relationship for a while, or you're someone that doesn't like conflict and you push those problems down and think, oh, I don't want the argument today, I'll leave it. That's what is one of the challenges that we see, that people don't address. And they think their partner's a bit of a mind reader as well. Think, well, they should know how I'm feeling, because when they do that, that's quite irritating. So it's about expressing exactly how you feel with your partner, but setting it up so it doesn't sound like the blame game, and doing it in a way that's just very gentle and putting that out on the table.
Yeah, but I think there are a lot of people that are in a position when they're married on whether or not to make that step, like which way do I go? So how does someone realize, like, okay, this is worth saving, this is worth working on recoupling, or it's really time to just figure out finances and figure out a way to...
I mean, great question. I think you've got to give it a go. You don't want to leave with regrets. And the only way to do that is to work on it. And I always say, give yourself 3 months, have that conversation about what can I do to improve? What can we do to make this better? How do I keep that spark alive? And work on a little plan for 12 weeks. And then at the end, you'll have more clarity, and clarity will enable you to make better decisions. And that's what we want. And then you can come to the end and say, it's not working, or it's unhealthy, we're not going to get back on track, this isn't sustainable, or yeah, we're doing good and we'll make it work.
Okay. All right. So you're talking about in the book uncoupling.
Yeah.
So what would be the biggest takeaway for you, for somebody who's like, okay, so I've been thinking this, and I'm just not sure, I'm waffling on the decision.
Yeah.
Read the book.
Read the book, yeah. I mean, I think everyone needs to know that divorce is no fun and it's not something to be rushed into, but actually you can survive and thrive afterwards. You know, I'm a living proof. I went through a very difficult divorce and have rebuilt my whole life, and now I help millions of people around the world with it. But I think it's really important to know you can take your power back, and it's up to you to decide what happens next. A lot of people think it's all over and it's ended, and that will be a grey cloud. And that's your choice. It can be.
Right.
But if you decide, you know what, I'm going to take my power back, I'm going to create a life I truly am excited to live, there are simple things that you can do to get that progressing faster, fast track through that heartbreak, and really feel good, more confident, and be even happier than you were before.
Wow. Well, great advice. So Sara Davison, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thanks for taking the trip across the pond.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And you can also check out Sara's podcast, Heartbreak to Happiness, for more relationship advice.